Hey, welcome back to Pawpaw Storytime, guys. I just been home for a few minutes, been out in the country. It was family dinner again. We had grandsons weekend this weekend, kind of like we had granddaughters before. A group of granddaughters is different than a group of grandsons in more than one way, and it's not bad. I remember the one time we looked in, and obviously kids nowadays are always in their electronics, so they were all holding a device, and thought they were all not paying attention. They were all in their own little worlds, but they were all in the same game. It was kind of surreal, like they were still playing with each other, but it was inside the video game. They were all sitting next to each other. It was weird. It was Jason, Nate, and then Oliver. Let me see. It's been a while since I did Storytime last time. I did it on Friday. That last weekend, we actually went. I got some books from an antique store. They're not antique books, all of them. Some of them are older, but I wanted to show you guys real quick. We got some golden books. This one is Let's Go All Around the Neighborhood. We got Johnny Appleseed. Have you guys ever even heard of Johnny Appleseed? Maybe in school. Flintstones, Mickey Mouse, Best Neighbor Contest. We got a Jungle Book, Hansel and Gretel. That's an older one. My first golden geography book. I don't know what, I haven't really, I've checked that out. Big Bird's Red Book. Grover's Own Alphabet. That's the same guy that plays Super Grover. And Aladdin. A Grand Day and a Wonderful Day. Winnie the Pooh. We got The Monsters Picnic. The Monsters of Sesame Street. We got Little People, Big Dreams. Elton John. This one's called Dear Girl. It's a celebration of a wonderful, smart, and beautiful you. And then this last one is definitely an older book. I don't know when, but this is going to be this is one that Grandma Lovey and Nina will like. Raylan and Lena's Nina. Be Nice to Spiders. Oh, I keep forgetting. You guys see the words backwards, so. Don't know when we're going to get to read them, but I'm pretty sure we got next year all booked up. I don't think we're going to run out of stories for a couple of years. I also got Daniel Tiger. He's going to watch over us for a while, but I think I'm going to add him to the drawing, which I know I haven't talked about a lot lately, but we're still going to do the drawing. Still can earn entries. In the description for this, there's ways to tell people how to earn different entries for the drawing, and I'll put it in the comments as well. And let's set that up here. Let me see. We are reading Curious George this week, but we're going to open with, we'll just keep him right there. We're going to open with Don't Sweat the Small Stuff for Teens by Dr. Richard Carlson. This is chapter 12. Let him have his accident somewhere else. When I was 13 years old, my parents took me to a seminar that was designed to help people learn more perspective. I remember only one thing from that seminar, but that one thing has stuck with me like gum on my shoe. It helped me virtually every day since that time. The man doing the teaching was talking about how irritating and frustrating it can be when you're driving and people come up too fast behind you. They tailgate you and might even flash their lights. In some instances, they even honk their horn or flip you off while talking about real jerks. The instructor asked the question, what can you do in a situation like this? People in the audience offered a variety of vindictive solutions, such as slam on your brakes, or turn on your taillights so the driver will think you're slamming on your brakes. Slow down to annoy them, or flip them off too. His response is the insight that I've never forgotten. He said in a calm voice, why not simply stay calm, pull over, and let him go have his accident somewhere else? What a brilliant suggestion. Think about it. It's virtually guaranteed that someone that angry and aggressive is going to have an accident. Why would you want to be involved? Why would you want anything to do with someone like that? In this day and age of road rage, this strategy is particularly important. Fighting back can only make matters worse and escalate an already dangerous situation. I drive quite a bit and have implemented this strategy dozens of times over the years, and to this day, it's never failed me. The jerks behind me always whiz by and are out of my life forever. What could be easier? Learning to stop sweating the small stuff involves deciding what things to engage and what things to ignore. It's important to know when to pursue something and when to back off. In this case, you're not backing off as much as you are pulling over. In any event, you'll be glad you did. That's one way to do that. You know, something else that I've heard that I always think about is we don't have any idea what that other person's going through. They could have a loved one in the hospital they're trying to get to the hospital to see, or they could have a loved one in, at their house, or there could have been an accident anywhere. Something in their life is pulling them, and it's still dangerous, so you still should probably pull over it and get out of their way, but you don't have to be aggressive back. Just let them go on. Like you said, if they're going to have an accident, let them do it somewhere else, right? I know that none of my grandkids, none of you guys are old enough yet to be driving, but it's a good message for your parents. And you guys are going to drive one day. Now, from our complete adventures of Curious George, we are reading Curious George Rides a Bike, Part 1. Curious George Rides a Bike, Part 1. This is George. He lived with his friend, the man in the yellow hat. He was a good little monkey and always very curious. This morning, George was curious the moment he woke up because he knew it was a special day. At breakfast, George's friend said, "Today we are going to celebrate because just 3 years ago this day, I brought you home with me from the jungle. So tonight I'll take you to the animal show. But first I have a surprise for you." He took George out to the yard where a big box was standing. George was very curious. Out of the box came a bicycle. George was delighted. That's what he'd always wanted. He knew how to ride a bicycle, but he had never had one of his own. "I must go now," said the man, "but I'll be back in time for the show. Be careful with your new bike and keep close to the house while I'm gone." George could ride very well. He could even do all sorts of tricks. Monkeys are good at that. For instance, he could ride this way with both hands off the handlebar. He could ride this way like a cowboy or a wild bronco. He could also ride backwards, but after a while, George got tired of doing tricks. And he went out into the street and saw the newsboy was just passing by with his bag full of papers. "It's a fine bike you have there," he said to George. "How would you like to help me deliver papers?" He handed George the bag and told him to do one side of the street first and then turn back and do the other side. George was very proud as he rode off with his bag. He started to deliver the papers on one side of the street, as he had been told. When he came to the last house, he saw a little river in the distance. George was curious. He wanted to know what the river was like, so instead of turning back to deliver the rest of the papers, he just went on. There was a lot to see at the river. A man was fishing from the bridge, a duck family was paddling downstream, and 2 boys were playing with their boats. George would have liked to stop and look at the boats, but he was afraid the boys might find out that he had not delivered all the papers, so he rode on. While riding along, George kept thinking of boats all the time. It would be such fun to have a boat, But how could he get one? He thought and he thought, and then he had an idea. He got off the bicycle, took a newspaper out of the bag, and began to fold it. First, he folded down the corners like this. Then he folded both edges up, brought the ends together, and flattened it sideways. Then he turned one corner up, then the other one. Again brought the ends together and flattened it sideways. Then gently he pulled the ends open, and there was a boat. Now the moment had come to launch the boat. Would it float? It did. So George decided to make some more boats. Finally, he had used up all the papers and made so many boats that he could not count them. A whole fleet. There's how he did it. You guys could push pause and it would show you how to make a boat. Those are the instructions. Watching his fleet sailing down the river, George felt like an admiral. But watching his fleet, he forgot to watch where he was going. Suddenly there was a terrible jolt. The bicycle had hit a rock, and George flew off the seat head first. Luckily, George was not hurt, but the front wheel of the bicycle was all out of shape, and the tire was blown out. Oh. George tried to ride the bicycle, but of course it wouldn't go. So he started carrying it, but soon it got too heavy. George did not know what to do. His new bike was spoiled. The newspapers were gone. He wished he had listened to his friend and kept close to the house. Now he just stood there and cried. And that's where we're going to stop until next week. Let's back in here. We'll find out what happens to George next week. Now we're going to close with The World According to Mr. Rogers. And Mr. Rogers, see that sweater right there? Mr. Rogers. Daniel Tiger was one of the puppets on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And then Daniel Tiger got his own show. It's 3 sweaters right there, right? Daniel Tiger's, the one on the book, and then Pawpaw's Storytime sweater that I got from my governor. All right, this says, little by little, we human beings are confronted with situations that give us more and more clues that we aren't perfect. The child is in me still, and sometimes not so still. Well, that's the end of that chapter. The next one's called Understanding Love. That'll be good. All right, put that one back in rotation there. And what do we got over here? So we're still doing the drawing. We still got the stuff, the bluey hat with the ears that pump, and the kindness magic mug we got that somebody handmade. We got it from the art festival. And now we got Daniel Tiger. He's going to stay with me until then. He's going to watch over all of us. We got, turn around, we'll do the thing real quick, right? The weekend song. I'll be back when the week is new, and I'll bring more ideas for you. You'll have things you want to do, and I will too. I'll think of you when I'm not here, 'cause thinking of people makes them seem near. The friends who know you love you cheerfully, and I do too. Oh, and our card. I didn't write an answer on it this time. It says, which TV show would you pick to live inside for a week? That one's tough. What TV show would I want to live inside of for a week? Most of my TV shows would be probably pretty scary to live inside of for a week. Superhero shows would be cool, but that means that there's villains and there's bad stuff that always happens. Maybe there's a prequel to the Yellowstone show. It's cowboys and early time settlers, right? I could probably do 1 week in 1883 or on Little House on the Prairie. Pretty hard life back then, but I think I could probably handle a week. I think that'd be pretty good for the soul, right? What about you? Any TV shows that you watch, which show would you pick to live inside of for a week? And I'll put the card back. And remember that our minds, just like our books, work better when they're open. Open minds. I love you guys for being exactly who you're supposed to be. You're the only one that gets to decide that. And that's it. I love you. Have somebody read the description to you because it's important. See you next week.